the Metropolis Healthcare Limited business update call. This conference call may contain forward-looking statements about the company, which are based on the beliefs, opinions, and expectations of the company as on date of this call. These statements are not the guarantees of future performance and involve risks and uncertainties that are difficult to predict. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then zero on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Shogun Jain from Strategic Growth Advisors for opening remarks. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Metropolis Acquisition Update conference call. This call has been exclusively scheduled to discuss the acquisition, and therefore we request all participants to restrict their questions to the disclosed acquisition. With this, let me now hand over the call to Ms. Ameera Shah, Managing Director, Metropolis Healthcare, for her opening comments. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Shogun, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the Hitech Acquisition Update conference call. I hope you and everyone around you is safe and in good health, and I'm joined today by Tejinder, Rakesh, and SGA, our advisors. The press release with respect to this acquisition has already been uploaded to the stock exchanges and the company's website. I hope everyone's had an opportunity to go through the same. Let me just give you a quick recap of how things unfolded during this acquisition. We had announced the acquisition of Hitech in Jan 2021 and held a conference call exclusively for the same. Since we had a time delay in the closing and the size of the acquisition is material, we believe it would be in the best interest of shareholders to clarify any queries you may have. We had anticipated to close that transaction within 3 to 4 months of announcing it in January 2021. However, in March-April 2021, the country was impacted by a very large second wave of COVID-19, and unfortunately, the sellers were also impacted personally by the same. By the time they had made a full recovery, the required regulatory approvals obtained by MHL had lapsed. Despite being slightly delayed now, we are pleased to share that the acquisition of Hitech Diagnostic Centre is now complete. Earlier, the transaction was structured, this was in January, it was structured as a combination of cash and stock, valued at rupees 511 crores in cash and up to 4,95,000 equity shares. If we had continued with the same structure, at current share price, the total value of the deal would be at approximately 650 crores. However, we have now changed this to an all-cash consideration of rupees 636 crores. The acquisition is going to be funded through a combination of internal accruals of 336 crores and external debt of 300 crores. We have been able to raise this debt at a cost of sub 5% per annum on the back of our strong balance sheet and brand equity that Metropolis enjoys. We expect to repay the acquisition debt within the next 2 to 3 years. As we've already given the background of Hitech in the previous calls, let me spend some more time on the strategic rationale of the acquisition instead. At Metropolis, we've always stated that M&A is an important pillar of our growth strategy. For an acquisition to make sense for us, the target entity should help us strengthen our leadership position in an existing market or help us enter a new market via a strong consumer reach and excellent business ethics. Acquisition of Hitech Diagnostics ticks all these right boxes for us. With the acquisition of this company, Metropolis will strengthen its position as the second largest diagnostics company in India and largest brand in South and West India. It allows us to have approximately 20 to 25% market share in Chennai, where the next competitor enjoys broadly a single-digit market share. It also allows us to strengthen our market position in our focus city of Bangalore while becoming leaders in the outside Chennai markets of Tamil Nadu. The combined volumes of samples between both companies will enable us to invest more in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka via new technologies, larger test menu, and stronger regional management leading to better customer experience. Hitech being a focused B2C player with 65% revenue contribution from B2C business, it will assist Metropolis in increasing its B2C business in focus cities of Chennai and Bangalore. increased B2C business will lead to a better profitability profile. The biggest opportunity is to grow the acquired business faster through geographical expansion of labs and collection centers across Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. Out of 37 districts across Tamil Nadu, Metropolis and Hitech jointly are only present in 6 to 7 of them, and we plan to cover at least another 8 to 10 districts in the next 2 to 3 years. Similarly, in Chennai, out of 194 PIN codes in the city, both brands cover only 81 PIN codes. We believe there is an opportunity to add around 15 to 20 additional labs and 300 collection centers in Tamil Nadu over the next 3 years through the existing network of both companies through expansion into these untapped geographies. Also, considering Metropolis offers a much larger test menu, this additional product offering to Hitech consumers would also add a new revenue stream. Channel expansion is also a growth opportunity. There is an opportunity, of course, to also synergize costs between the two organizations in the area of procurement, supply chain, administration, and support resourcing, testing efficiencies, and back-end infrastructure. Our regional reference lab in Chennai will be able to process larger volume of tests, thus increasing utilization levels and operating leverage. The opportunities for synergy are significant. However, our initial priority is on growth of the business as we gradually tap into synergy benefits in line with our integration plan. The selling shareholders will be a part of the leadership team for the next few years to enable a smooth transition and integration of Hitech with Metropolis. We have rich experience in Metropolis with acquisitions, having done 23 acquisitions in the past. Our experience has been enriching and positive with almost all of them, so much so that we have often gotten more benefits than originally envisaged. We are confident to maintain this trend with this acquisition as well. While working on this acquisition, we seriously evaluated many pathology transactions that were on the market, including 1 or 2 very large ones. While some of our evaluation requirements were met, we found the large deals too expensive, as the expected valuation multiples were based on unsustainable EBITDA numbers of 2021 and 21-22, driven by large COVID-19 revenues. In some cases, the COVID-19 revenues were 50 to 60% of total revenue. A key criteria for us is evaluating expected non-COVID sustainable revenues and EBITDA in 22-23 and ensuring the valuation makes sense from that perspective, rather than paying very high sums which would make return ratios unviable. The biggest benefit of the Hitech transaction is that this has been a very healthy and solidly profitable business, probably one of the highest profits amongst all regional players, even before COVID, compared to some deals which are only looking healthy and profitable due to COVID revenues and the EBITDA coming from them. Now on to some financial details on Hitech. Hitech clocked a revenue of approximately rupees 124 crores in FY21. 60% of the revenue contribution was from sustainable non-COVID business, which was much higher than the comparable peers. Hitech has continued the strong business momentum going into 22 as well, and on top of that, the non-COVID business contribution is now been almost 75% of the business, signifying the company has a loyal customer profile and is not a one-time beneficiary of the COVID-19 pandemic. In FY22, Hitech is tracking a 15% CAGR on non-COVID business from pre-COVID run rate. At EBITDA level, Hitech recorded margins upwards of 40% in FY21, which were partly aided by scale benefits due to COVID-19. Even during FY20, which is the pre-COVID period, Hitech has sustainably recorded margins in the range of 20 to 30%, which are at similar levels to Metropolis. We definitely see a scope for improving margins even further as the synergy benefits start kicking in once we start certain integrations between the two companies. Moreover, Hitech enjoys a superior ROCE profile upwards of 30%, which is better than most regional players on back of its high-quality B2C business and leadership position across its cities of presence. The acquisition is expected to be ROCE accretive to Metropolis from year 3 once the debt is repaid. The valuation multiple at which we have acquired Hitech is 13x FY21 EBITDA. The acquisition is expected to be PAT accretive after considering interest on acquisition debt as well as increased depreciation and amortization. As no equity will be issued in this transaction, we expect the acquisition to be EPS accretive from day one. In terms of transition, the approach we tend to take is first to focus on back-end integration in the initial 12 to 18 months with minimal to no changes on the front end. We may initiate front-end integration later. The synergy plan is aligned with this approach to integration. To summarize this, the acquisition of Hitech makes ample sense for us. It has enabled us to strengthen our leadership position in our focus cities of South India market, get access to new Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities in South India, penetrate in the value segment of the market, improve our B2C contribution, and leverage scale benefits through cost synergies. We are confident that the joint efforts of Metropolis team along with the sellers of Hitech will enable us to smoothly integrate the acquisition, leading to strengthening the business and the brand. That's it from my side. We now leave the floor open for Q&A.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Pooja Bhatia from Morgan Stanley. Please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Ameera, since Hitech, since the brand is perceived or its addressable market is in the mid-segment range, how does the unit economics look like on a revenue per test and revenue per patient basis?
Thanks, Pooja. So revenue per test and revenue per patient is, price points and realizations are lower than Metropolis. And because obviously this is targeting sort of the mid-segment. But like as we said, that the margin profile overall of Hitech is still on line with Metropolis, because obviously there is a link to the service promise as well as the price point promise that is by Hitech, and that is in proportion in that brand as it is in Metropolis.
Okay. And since you mentioned that there is a scope of improving EBITDA on integration, what are the levers?
The levers, as you mentioned, Pooja, would be 2, 3. One primary lever would be procurement and supply chain. Obviously, when we start procuring materials together, there will be benefits that we get from negotiations as well as economies of scale. Second, the benefit can come through in terms of being able to do more tests locally in those markets of Chennai and Bangalore, which then allows even for revenue contribution to be increasing, but it also lowers the cost per test when you're doing larger volumes together. So that would be the second lever. The third lever would be sort of back-end infrastructure and resourcing. Is there a way to synergize that? That could be definitely another opportunity. And on the administration side, for example, there could be some real estate synergies, and there could be some other geographical synergies, automating certain processes, which we have done in Metropolis, and extending those to the new company, so that we're able to improve productivity and efficiency.
Helpful. Thank you. I'll get back in the queue.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anubhav Agarwal from Credit Suisse. Please go ahead.
Hi. Good morning. Ameera, can you talk about split of Hitech sales now And also put in perspective, let's say in Chennai, Bangalore, how big is Metropolis sales and how is sales for Hitech?
So in Chennai and Bangalore, in Chennai, Metropolis is number one. Hitech is a very, very close number two. So we usually tend to be deck to deck. So now, of course, both companies, are sort of together. In Bangalore, Metropolis is currently approximately 3 to 4 times the size of the Bangalore Hitech business. And therefore, the Bangalore business will end up increasing by approximately 20 to 25% in size, now adding the Hitech business. I think, sorry, what was your second question?
Can you also talk about, let's say, of the Hitech sales, let's say fiscal 20, which is more realistic base, how much is Chennai? Is Chennai like 70-80% of their revenues? Can you just give some idea about now since the transaction is closed?
Yes, Chennai would be approximately 70-80% of revenues for Hitech in Chennai before COVID.
Okay. And the collection network of Hitech, is that largely like Metropolis is largely third-party franchisee, or do they have their own? Because I'm just wondering that ROC is 30% when EBITDA margin is 30%. So is what is resulting that is much lower ROC for the company compared to, let's say, Metropolis, which is a much higher ROC profile?
I think most companies' ROC is between, 30-35%. And I think the ROC profiles are very similar. I think for Hitech, if you actually look at it, they don't have as large a network, of course, that Mr. Metropolis has. They have about 40-45 centers, and most of these centers tend to be, labs plus collection centers. They don't have a very large range of only collection centers. And that's where the opportunity lies, is to really build much larger geographical expansion and distribution within this brand.
Thank you. Just one clarity on when you say it will be EPS accretive from day one. Can you just elaborate a little bit more on that? What is the depreciation amortization you are making there in? Because see, the EBITDA normalized will be about 30 crore from this transaction, 25 to 30 crore, and interest based on cost on debt of 300 crore itself is at 5% is 15 crore. You are losing interest income on 330 crore, which is another, let's say, about 20 crores, and there will be depreciation. So I'm not able to appreciate how it will be EPS accretive from day one.
Yeah, so I will take this. Today, if you look at, they are clocking around 40 plus crore of EBITDA. This year also expected to be more than that. And rightly said by you that there will be around 15 crore of interest, and then another 7 to 8 crore of interest loss because of the accrual which we have given. And 3 crore rupees will be depreciation and amortization for it. So basically, overall, we will still be a bit positive, maybe marginally in the year one. And that is the reason why we are saying that it will be still EPS neutral or accretive.
But on the interest income, only 7 crore on a 336 crore payout.
So we are getting 3.5 crore. Right now, this whole accrual was kept in a short-term deposits because we expected this deal to happen. So we are just getting some 3.5% of interest right now in the short-term fixed deposits. So that is what we are envisaging will go away from us, and that's the reason why we are still hopeful of keeping a neutral kind of PAT for the acquisition.
And you are amortizing brand over 50-year period, that you are taking depreciation amortization only 3 CR?
Yeah, so amortization we will work on that. We will come back. Amortization basically will be infinity for us because we will take it more of in a goodwill. So we'll come out with it. I think we are still working on the strategy of how should we look at from a valuation and bringing in the books point of view. That is something which will let you people know once we close out the whole piece, because that's still going on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Participants who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Rahul Agarwal from InCred Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good morning, Ameera, and good morning, team. Just one question. So essentially, could you share 3-4 parameters on how basically we as analysts are to track to determine whether this M&A will be successful 3 years out? Obviously, you have mentioned in the last conference call as well during the deal call, in fact, that there is realization, cost savings, mid-market entry, B2C, stuff like that. But internally, if you have to point out top 3 things to basically track and 3 years out, you yourself, feel and believe that, yes, we've done a successful acquisition, what would those 3 parameters be? Thank you.
I think one would be to sort of to see a higher revenue growth than we have traditionally, in the same markets. I think that would be one. Second would be sort of to see obviously the synergy benefits accruing, at the bottom. I would say these 2 at this point of time, besides, all the hygiene and all the other stuff usually that, has to go into any time you do an acquisition to make sure that policy adapts to Metropolis. Besides that, I would say revenue growth and EBITDA synergy benefits.
And you think a 3-year period should be decent enough to judge that, or should it be longer?
I think a 3-year period is fair enough to sort of judge that. And I think synergy benefits, obviously, as we mentioned, will not all come in day one because we want to do a gradual synergy. So while that, I think, more will show us a third year would be, as an individual year, would be a better assessment of it to see what the full year synergy benefit is. Hopefully, the revenue growth can start picking up much sooner.
Got it. And one small thing I wanted to check was the debt is raised under what structure? What form is it?
It's taken against the asset of the company. So basically, it's a short to long term raising of capital to be repaid, debt to be repaid in 3 years' time. So we expect to be, to repay this before that, but the terms of the debt is 3 years.
So this is not under non-convertible debentures?
No, it's a pure vanilla debt loan.
Okay, and the repayment you said after 3 years, so the entire thing gets repaid after 3 years, or is it like yearly?
No, it will be get repaid in 3 years, within 3 years.
Okay, got that. Thank you so much for answering my questions. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shyam Srinivasan from Goldman Sachs. Please go ahead.
Hi, good morning, and thank you for taking my question. First one, you talked about synergies. Maybe I missed this, revenue synergies and the realization. So is there a scope for us to take that up? And are we also trying to rebrand, high-tech stores and make them Metropolis branded? Can you just walk us through what could happen there, or we're going to retain the 2 different brands, 2 different segments?
I think at this point of time, look, I think there are still a bunch of things to evaluate. On the brand side, I think we will still figure out as to what is the best approach. I mean, we own both brands, and therefore we will see what makes sense from a consumer standpoint. Definitely in the first 12 to 18 months, there is going to be no change in the front-end brands at all, and we'll evaluate as we go into the market for what happens post 12 to 18 months. And both companies will continue on their growth trajectories independently without compromising each other. As far as your, I think your first half of the question was around, could you just repeat that?
Yeah, realizations being lower. Is there any levers there where maybe they were taking lower price increases yearly? I'm just trying to get the levers there and what can change now that you're managing it.
See, on the revenue synergy side, I mean, if tomorrow we do decide to bring the brands together, then obviously there are some, significant potential revenue synergies that will accrue, which we have not at this point put as part of the plan. And we want to take the time to assess, like we said, what is really helpful to us in the market, in the context of business. So we don't want to rush into on the revenue synergy side at this point as a price increases. We would rather, I think, get into the market, assess the situation, and then decide. So whatever we have outlined in terms of synergies at this point are purely on the cost side. If revenue synergies were to come in, those would be additional.
Got it. And data point? I don't know whether you're sharing it now, but what is the, I think previous participant also asked, what is the realization per test or realization per patient for them?
I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it's like we said, definitely lower than what it is for for Metropolis in Chennai and Bangalore at this point of time. I don't have the number at this point of time to be able to offer you.
So we will give you the exact numbers, but just to give a reference of it, it's the realization is almost 60-65% per test from a Metropolis point of view, and revenue per patient is still very much in line because the revenue per test per patient is quite high for Hitech. So we will come up with exact numbers. We will give you the details maybe in the next earning calls, but that is how you can just have a bit of a reference.
Thank you, Rakesh. And last question, just on the change in the structure of the deal, just, if you can help us understand, the stock part went away, there's only cash, but just looking ahead as well, Ameera and team just want to understand, can we use our stock as some kind of a leverage to buy out more assets, or do you think promoters are still cagey and still prefer cash to be part of the deal largely?
We have to remember that the sellers in our industry are doctors and not business people. So there is definitely a higher comfort when it comes to cash and not having to deal and engage too much with the stock. So we will definitely continue to look at opportunities to use our stock as a method for this. But I think it really depends on each deal. So that attempt will be there, but we'll have to see as to whether the buyers are also comfortable. I mean, the sellers are also comfortable.
Fair enough. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Praveen Sahai from Edelweiss Financial. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for taking my question. So my first question is related to the further inorganic expansion, as you had acquired one of the big, I can say, the acquisition you had done. So how your plan for a future, because the guidelines for expansion in the lab and the collection center for the next 3 years is very high. So how you will go about the inorganic further?
I think what we are doing here at this point of time is we're obviously building a separate team that will take this acquisition and take it to its future destiny as far as the organic growth is out. So there'll be obviously a separate team to drive Hitech, a separate team which is already driving this to Metropolis. So that work will continue because the value in the future will also come out of, like we said, geographical expansion, product expansion, segment expansion. And we would like to make sure that we focus enough on these three with a separate team to get that done. So I think that's definitely goal number one. As far as other acquisitions, look, I mean, there are a lot of, there are more available deals in the market today. Some of them are smaller and some of them are larger. And as we sort of said and mentioned in the earlier discussion, what we are finding is that some of the larger deals are very, very expensive. And we are finding that, they're expensive not off the back necessarily of very sustainable business. And that's our bigger concern, is that if it was expensive but on the back of a very strong foundational business, it would make sense. But if it's not, then frankly, it is, just an opportunism from sellers, and that may not necessarily be a good thing for buyers at this point of time. So we are being very careful and cautious in looking at deals where the financial metrics make sense for us and not getting carried away with wanting to just acquire at any price and any circumstances. And we would like to continue the same, but having said that, we continue to remain open. If there are good deals and good acquisitions which we believe will aid us from a strategic perspective, we continue to remain open and sort of look at them, assuming that they fall within all our tick boxes, and especially on the financial ratios and this one.
Okay. The next on the Hitech, because Hitech has 31 labs, 68 collection center. Can you, guide some, the future, how it can be, in the next 3 years? Say, right now it's doing an 124 odd crore of a revenue with 31 labs and 68 collection center. What's the potential for this company to become?
Well, I don't think we are giving any revenue guidance at this point, but as we mentioned earlier, that today there is 37 districts in Tamil Nadu, and today we are only present in 6 to 7. So we would definitely add a lot more centers. We believe that we can add about 15-20 labs in high-tech and Mr. Metropolis, and also about 300 collection centers between the two. So that's the opportunity that we see and that we'll be working towards for the next 3 years.
Okay, so that's related to the addition, but because they have a 31 labs, so the current revenue per labs, do you see it's enough they are doing, or there is a further room for improvement or increase in there as well?
No, absolutely. I mean, look, all the existing infrastructure is not 100% capacity utilized. So definitely on the existing centers and the existing labs, the focus on building organic growth will continue. What I mentioned was on new infrastructure that will additionally add in terms of geographical expansion. But naturally, the existing business will also continue to grow organically as we move forward.
Okay. Lastly, after acquisition of Hitech, how much is the market share for Metropolis combined together?
So in Chennai, as we mentioned, it's about 20 to 5% is what we believe.
25%. Sorry, what you said?
20 to 25%.
Okay.
Between 20 and 25%.
Okay. Yeah, and last question on the Hitech is what important thing from the Hitech you want to implement in the Metropolis?
I think one of the things that Hitech does very well is actually doing a very fast turnaround time of reports. And we would like to definitely understand, from them as to how they are managing to do that, and if there are good lessons sort of from that we can imbibe into Metropolis. And we would definitely look at some of these operational parameters and try to pick up things that could be brought into Metropolis.
Thank you, and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ashish Kachoria from Lucky Investment Managers. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Ameera and the Metropolis team. I just want to understand at a very basic level. See, we spent 600 crores on acquiring this asset, and we get 40 crores of EBIT out of it. So it's a 6% ROC on the funds that we have deployed in this deal. We add in the synergies, there'll be some growth. But how do we ever reach a 20% ROC in a deal like this? Just trying to understand your logic. If we are going to invest our capital, shouldn't we look for projects where we can reach, say, a 20% ROC in 3 years or 5 years? But in a deal like this, it looks like a mirage. So if you can just explain your thought process.
Sure. Hi, Ashish. Yeah, I think we have to be clear on the lay of the land in diagnostics and what are the opportunities. I mean, I think what you are suggesting is sure ideal, but it doesn't exist, in the industry. We have to, let me just give you a little lay of the land of the industry first and what are the opportunities available. Our structure, as we've always talked about in the industry, is like a pyramid. At the top, you have your, 3-4 national chains. In the middle, you have all these regional chains, which are now about 30 to 40. And these regional chains tend to be in 1 or 2 or 3 cities. And then at the bottom, you have these 150,000 individual labs, which are hardly at revenues of 2 lakhs a month or 4 lakhs a month. So the only opportunities, if we want to grow, organically as we grow, obviously the idea is to move the market from the unorganized to the organized. But if you want to grow additionally and faster, through the inorganic route as well, and the question is why? Because as these regional brands are building and they are coming up for sale, at the end of the day, there is going to be a deal that's going to happen there. Now, the question is whether we believe that we can do more with that business in terms of adding value, or whether we want somebody else also to come into that same market with that business. And if that business is available to us at shared financial ratios where we think we can do a lot with it, then to us it makes more sense to be able to absorb that rather than allowing somebody else to come and disrupt that market where we have got some sense of leadership and investment, and actually potentially even spoil that market for us. So in this case, these regional players, let me tell you, Hitech has been probably one of the most fair deals available, where we believe that we can add a lot of value. As we go forward, I think, we will see how the industry is. Deals are happening at much, much more expensive prices. And one way to say is that, look, we're not going to do anything inorganic at all. And we are just going to continue to grow organically at the 15-16% per year. But we are also accumulating a lot of cash, and therefore that cash can continue to sitting on the books. And we know that our industry is not a capital-intensive industry. It's not like you can take the same cash and deploy large amounts of factories or large amounts of capex with it. And therefore, if we have to also think of the use of cash, then the only other options are to keep dividending it out, or to use it to actually increase the growth of the business and bring in some of these regional players which we believe have got strategic value to be added into the business. And while I think as entrepreneurs and promoters, the financial metrics are very important to us, we have to remember that businesses are not only built on the back of ROCE, and there will always be also strategic angles to look at when we are taking those calls. So I think our history with acquisitions has been successful. Majority of our deals that we have done have added great value to shareholders over the years. And we hope this time too we have the support of our shareholders in seeing how this can add a lot of value to it.
Just a small follow-up to that, Meera. See, there have been many, many great companies who have been built without, kind of doing acquisitions which are non-accretive, or, in the sense that they reach their targeted ROC over a reasonable time frame. Today the markets are hot, tomorrow the markets may not be hot. Keep the cash, use the situation when some of these guys, are struggling actually. The other option is that, over a period of time, you throw 100 crores at technology and build a technology platform which is absolutely bulletproof. Even today, our technology efforts are pretty middle of the road. There has been some improvement. So doesn't it just make sense to throw 100 crores at technology and kind of lick that problem once and for all and kind of make us the best in class? This kind of 600 crores for a 40 crore EBIT. And if we keep doing this, just as a hypothesis, just say that, all the cash flows that we come up over a period of time, we keep throwing at these 6% ROC kind of deals. Wouldn't our company's ROC itself crash from where we are? Life is all about incremental. And incrementally, if we do 6% kind of ROC deals, wouldn't the ROC of a company crash from 50% to 6% over a period of time? Yes, you will say that, we are going to be cautious and we'll do 1 and 3 years. But look at the direction and, because there is a deal doesn't mean we have to do a deal. All the great value creation efforts in the country, say you take HUL, you take Asian Paints, and there is such a large unorganized market. Anyway, a lot of them are going to die and the strong players are going to take the market share. Why should we be in a hurry to throw away our hard-earned cash? That is just the thought process that I want to leave with. I mean, obviously you have your growth ambitions, but doesn't it just make sense to pause and think about this a little more, We are good old solid businessmen. We have built a business over so many years with, very, very smart acquisition earlier. But today these acquisitions are coming at humongous prices and these are all being driven by the stock market valuation. Does it really make sense to use stock market valuations to kind of, plan your business on a ROC dwindling basis? That is just the thought that I have.
So I think you brought up a lot of points. Let me address all of that. Right. So number one, I think let us not take stories of other industries because they cannot be clearly embossed on every industry. The story of FMCG in India has absolutely zero comparison to the story of diagnostics in India. And I therefore would not want to take lessons from one to the other. We have built this business over the last 20 years successfully based on our own instincts for what is needed for diagnostics, what works and what doesn't work. There is a deep understanding of healthcare. What are the levers, what drives it, and that is very, very different from some of the other businesses that you're quoting. I understand you're giving it as analogies, but those analogies are not relevant, right? So firstly, we have to remember that this is not a market which is a mass consumer where the consumer is the decision maker. This is a market where the influencer is the doctor and the customer happens to be the consumer. So therefore, the levers that are at play and the way the business is built is different, number one. I do not see a situation where by mass advertising, mass promotion, mass marketing, or even throwing tomorrow 100 crores at technology or throwing 100 crores at advertising is going to change the levers of the business in that situation, right? Because our industry is driven by different things. It's based on local relationships. It's based on expertise and influence by doctors at a local level. If today I give you a simple example about you deciding which doctor to go to, you are still going to make a decision based on your relationship with an individual doctor when you're making a decision for anything in healthcare. And that's the way healthcare operates. And therefore, when it appears to you that we are spending 600 crores to get a 40 crore EBITDA, I think what we are forgetting is that in all the acquisitions that we have done in the past, at that time, by the way, when we were paying 8 multiple and 10 multiple, it appeared expensive at that point of time as well. Because at that point of time, there was no public market valuation for Metropolis. But we did it because we understood that by getting those relationships in our fold of consumers and doctors, there was a big opportunity to drive it through joyful distribution and product distribution. And I can tell you it is the same thing here. We are getting a good deal that we believe is going to be valuable and value accretive to Metropolis. So that's first thing. The second thing is that the question of if the scenario plays out and we keep doing this and the ROC keeps decreasing, I mean, the arithmetic very clearly shows that, as we pay our debt off, as we've taken the leverage on the balance sheet and as we pay it off, the ROCE is only improving. And there is an accretion that is happening from an ROCE basis, which otherwise actually we are going to have a negative setback because the cash on our books, which is earning such low yields at this point of time because we are doing very, very safe investments, is only dragging the return ratios on our ROCE. So actually deploying the cash in business, bringing growth into the system is actually going to be more beneficial than just sitting on cash and keep accumulating cash over years. We are not a treasury management business, neither are we a financial services business, we're a healthcare business. So we believe that we should be using and deploying our cash in the healthcare services rather than only managing it from a treasury perspective. So I think that's the second point. And I think your third point about using public market valuation, at this point of time, if you see what Metropolis is valued at and what we are paying, there is a humongous difference between the two. So very clearly, we are not using public market valuations to pay because otherwise we would have paid much, much higher prices for these deals, which is what others will potentially or may be doing in other deals as well. So I think, I understand that there might be different opinions about whether there should be inorganic or not. But I think somewhere there has to be a thought that these inorganic expansions have worked for us. We are not making these decisions lightly. This is not one day just waking up and saying, let's buy this out of ego or vanity. These are very well thought through decisions, studied, ratio studied, negotiations done, and deals completed. So please, give us your trust for some time to show you how the deals and the returns on these deals actually get done. And I think we'll see the thing in plain sight in the next few weeks.
Thank you very much. All the very best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Neha Manpuria from Bank of America. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for taking my question. Ameera, what approvals would we need to close this deal from a regulatory standpoint?
We don't need any approvals, and the deal is already closed as of Friday.
Okay, so we don't need any competition commission approval, etc., which could be an issue, given our market share in Chennai.
No, we don't require that, and the deal has been closed end to end. So right now there is nothing left to be done.
Okay, understood. My second question is on the lower realization for high tech. Could you give us a sense on I don't know if there is a metrics that we look at, but what is the patient mix when it comes to Metropolis versus, let's say, high tech? Meaning, is there a large portion of, let's say, cash paying patients that come to Metropolis versus, let's say, insurance patients? And that's the reason for the difference, and how can we bridge that?
So, number one, health insurance does not cover diagnostics at this point of time, Neha. from an OPD perspective. It's only covered when you're in hospitalization. So the difference in pricing is nothing to do with the payer mix. This is all patients paying for both companies, and therefore it's cash. The B2B side obviously has credit in both companies, but there's nothing, there's no big significant difference between what we see as the receivables in both companies either.
No, when I'm sorry, Ameera, when I meant insurance, I meant tie-up with insurance companies, and therefore those patients coming in, to your center, versus, let's say, a doctor-driven decision driving that.
That's not the case. No, that's not the case. In both companies, it's a doctor-driven or a patient-driven decision, and therefore it's a complete cash business. The lower realizations are only the fair market pricing that was decided by this brand as to where they wanted to position themselves, right? And this brands position themselves at a more middle market positioning, I think, to make themselves more affordable. And therefore, obviously, their service and other promises were proportionate, right? So therefore, I think it's just catering to a different market. The opportunities that we see, for example, there are these large volume of patients walking in. But for example, there is no upselling or cross-selling that's happening to them, right? So that would be a very clear opportunity as a lever to say that, look, can we go back to the same doctors? Can we go back to the same patients? And scientifically educate them on what tests may actually be better to prescribe for that patient. Because, for example, somebody might be getting a lipid profile done, but we may have another 5 tests which may be scientifically more relevant for that patient. And that is going to be the process of going to these doctors, educating them, building awareness, and trying to see if we can actually move these realizations up the value chain. And this is the process that we, by the way, have gone through with many other acquisitions. We have done the same thing even in Metropolis business. So this is something we understand how to do, and something that will, obviously will take some time to play out, but something that we would start pretty soon.
And,
for example, Ameera, wellness is something which is, not being sold to, let's say, high-tech customers, right? Okay. So that would be an opportunity. So like that, there are many things which are opportunities of what we are doing in Metropolis, which can be done here as well.
And one other question, Ameera, in terms of, since you brought up the wellness point, as we try to look at the customers that are coming back to, let's say, Metropolis, particularly in a market like Chennai where your competition is increasing, is that customer churn higher for high-tech versus Metropolis? Meaning, you need more number of newer customers to come in to be able to maintain growth, and therefore it's more expensive to acquire that customer.
So usually in healthcare, what happens now is that customers are, have going to a particular brand or going to a particular lab. One, because their doctor is the main influencer, and second, they have gone there and they have built their own comfort. Unless something goes really wrong from a customer service experience perspective, they tend to stay with that brand consistently over time, and only shift if they have some sort of a problem, right? So usually we find that because these transactions and pathology interactions are happening maybe once a year or twice a year, this is not an active choice or a decision making that a patient does in saying, let me evaluate all the options, let me decide which one is the best, and then let me go to it. It happens much more passively, that when they fall sick at that point of time and based on the doctor recommendation and at that point of time, their own perception of where they should go, that decision gets done. So usually when you're acquiring a company like this, what you're acquiring are those consumer relationships, which are of patients who have been going there for 20, 30, 40 years. You're acquiring those relationships of doctors who are used to sending patients to that particular chain, and used to their services, used to their report formats, used to their engagement with pathologists, and that's what you're acquiring. Usually when patients look at sort of pathology lab and we talk about moving unorganized to organized, high-tech is very much considered as part of the organized, right? So when a patient is moving from a very small lab, it's moving either to a high-tech or to a Lister Metropolis. Now in this situation, where obviously both are part of the same group, whether it goes to one or the other, the benefit finally will accrue to us. And obviously, therefore, we want to still maintain that these two brands have their own trajectories, and therefore they will have their own teams on the ground that will be pushing each brand to reach their sort of ultimate destiny.
Okay. you don't think that, the fact that one of the biggest players in, Chennai wants to expand could impact your ability to retain these customers, both in high-tech or in Metropolis as a combined entity?
No, I mean, look, there's always going to be competition in every market, right? And in every market, you're going to find that, people they're going to have to find their own customers. So just because somebody enters a new market, it's not like all the patients have been waiting and they're going to go running to some third brand. It doesn't work like that, right? In fact, in our industry, gestation, stability, recognition of the brand has got much more value. Just because a new player entry, it doesn't mean that all the customers leave the existing brands and run away. So I don't think so. And I think, in fact, as competition comes into cities, I mean, for example, we have been in a Delhi market, or other people have been in a Delhi market for donkey's years. And it's not like the growth of the incumbent there completely disappears. Or when people come into Bombay, it's not like Metropolis now doesn't have any business, right? Each of us has our own journey. The market is still large enough, as we always have to keep remembering that there's only 10 to 12% is organized, and 85 to 87% is still unorganized. So the fight is with the unorganized and not between the organized players.
And my last question, Ameera, is, do you think now that, the second wave has settled, we have potentially, so far we haven't seen a third wave, the acquisition environment in diagnostic has changed, or are valuations still, has there been any sort of, let's say, moderation in terms of the ask rates from deals, or you're not seeing that as yet, or you don't see that happening in the near term?
No, because look, I mean, the second wave has happened only a few months ago, and it's happened in this financial year. So whoever is trying to sell off the back of 21, 22, and the buyer is not looking at what the sustainable EBITDA and revenues are going to be in 22, 23, the deal is definitely going to be in favor of the sellers. So, unless we wait for the financial year to get over and really assess deals now on 22, 23, sustainable EBITDA and revenue, I think that's when probably you'll find the pricing becoming a little bit more fair. But, as you can understand, there is always sometimes a valuation steam that gets built up in an industry, and that's what's happening in our industry today, where we are seeing, a little bit of froth. And I think we are trying to be very careful to stay away from that froth and actually look at deals which are very, very focused on fundamentals.
Thank you, Ameera.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rajdeep Singh from ASK Investment Managers. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good morning, team. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Ma'am, you said the B2C mix for high-tech is 65%. What would be the mix for Metropolis in the southern markets? And this driver of higher realization would come from growing the B2B mix faster, or it would be more test mix change towards specializing within the B2C?
So in Chennai, Metropolis ratio of B2C is also similar. It's maybe a little bit higher, maybe close to 70%. So very similar profiles of the two businesses. In terms of the increase in revenues in the future, we are definitely targeting higher revenues from B2C. Even for high-tech, like we said, we want to expand the geography. We also want to do upselling and cross-selling of certain products. And also we have, large test menu in Metropolis, which we would now offer to all the high-tech customers, which otherwise high-tech did not have the ability to offer because they did only 700-800 varieties of tests, while Metropolis got closer to 4,000 varieties of tests. So there would be product expansion, there would be a channel expansion, and a geographical expansion. And all three will aid the B2C business moving up.
Sure. And what would be the wellness testing contribution for high-tech?
At this point of time, they are not really doing wellness as a separate segment at all.
Okay. And lastly, you said the investment required would be adding up 16 to 20 labs and 300 collection centers. In terms of capex or investment, what would that amount be, and over how many years this would be required? And would we be doing some investment on the digital front as well?
So the capex, for the lab could be maybe up to 5 crores over 3 years. We don't see this being a very significant investment. The collection centers, we will evaluate whether we will do on a third-party model or our own model. It will probably be a combination of the two. So we don't expect the capex outlay to be significant or material in the entire picture. As far as your question on digital, for sure, this also there will definitely be a digital presence and digital capability as well. And our idea is to also continue to build on the digital side for Metropolis, and we are investing reasonably heavily there. And we'll try to see as to what are the opportunities that we can gain from this transaction on the digital side as well. So as we know, we've just concluded the deal. The things that are very clear to us is what we have shared today. But behind the scenes, obviously, there is still a lot of innovation and thoughts happening on what else we could do with this acquisition and how else we could leverage it. And there are many ideas, and we will, of course, be happy to share it over time as they become more concrete.
Sure. You said 5 to 6 crores per lab, right?
No, 5 to 6 crores total.
Cumulatively. Okay. This is helpful. Thank you so very much and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Manish Poddar from Nippon India. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So just 2 data points. First one is if you could give us the combined market share in, let's say, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu after this acquisition. And you mentioned a number, let's say 100:25 in Karnataka for you. Let's say you and versus Hitech in terms of size. Would you be able to help me with a similar number in Tamil Nadu? Thank you.
So in Tamil Nadu, basically, this would close to double our business. And therefore, like we said, that this Metropolis on its own has about 10 to 11, 12% market share. Together, this company would have between 20 to 25% market share. And in Karnataka, it would increase our market share by a few percentage points. As we said, totally, this would add about 25% of revenue to our existing business. But together, I think in Karnataka, we will continue to be, we are currently the second largest player. We will now become a much closer second and across the state and very close to actually moving to a number 1 player in Karnataka as well, which hopefully we can achieve soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anubhav Agarwal from Credit Suisse. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Abhiraj, can you explain when you mentioned mid-segment positioning of Hitech? Can you explain this? This is not so clear to me. When you say Metropolis has premium positioning and Hitech has market positioning.
So what that means is basically the sort of how a consumer sees you from a infrastructure standpoint, a service standpoint, and a pricing standpoint. And what are they sort of gaining from you? So Hitech has been always traditionally a more affordable brand in the markets, especially in the market of Chennai and Tamil Nadu. And you'll see sort of, if you see sort of their infrastructure, the infrastructure, if you compare it sort of to a listed Metropolis infrastructure, you may not see as much premiumness in the infrastructure or in the presentation. It would be probably more mid-market, as we said, in line with the price points, which are also different from listed Metropolis. So I think it's about how the whole package deal appears to a consumer. It does not mean that from a quality perspective or from a fundamental perspective there's any compromise, which there is not. But from a presentation perspective and how the consumer engages with the brand, there is a differentiation between the two.
So just trying to understand this. So how difficult was for Metropolis to do being the number 1 player in this segment? So I'm assuming the price difference will not be more than 10-15%. Can you correct that? Or you think the price difference between the two will be more than 20-25%?
The price difference is more significant than 10-15 for sure. I don't have a number that I can offer you because obviously it's different per test. So there's no averaging that I can give you. But definitely on some tests, so for example, on some tests the price difference is larger, on some it's smaller. So usually what we find is on the entry test, the routine test, the price difference is more significant, and on the specialized test, the price difference is less significant. So there are also many tests on which Metropolis is much cheaper because like on specialized tests, Metropolis has larger economies of scale. And therefore tends to be cheaper than most regional players who don't have economies of scale and therefore have to charge higher. But on routine tests, usually we find, not all, but in this case, Hitech is a more affordable brand than Lister Metropolis.
So I'm just trying to understand from the angle that, if Metropolis would have tried to target those segments, because of the price difference, you could not have done it organically, and you had to go and acquire this company, or because this acquisition to me is looking like blocking somebody else from entering this space and retaining number one player rather than, because I can understand why being a number one player you could not have grown or let's say targeted those consumers that you had to go and buy this number two player.
This is what I'm saying. It's going back to the fundamental understanding of healthcare, because I think the assumption always is that, oh, this can be done like consumer companies do. But that's not how healthcare functions, right? So, for example, it's like saying that, let's take your example and say, okay, why couldn't we go and offer cheaper prices to these consumers? Because price was not the only differentiator why they went to Hitech in the first place. In fact, price, what we have found, is the number 5 criteria when people are making a decision about healthcare. The number one decision that they make when they will be in healthcare is the doctor's recommendation and the doctor's comfort with a particular diagnostic brand. The number 2 is convenience. The number 3 is the service that they get there. And the way people make healthcare decisions is you have to think that, imagine for a minute you're unwell, right? And when you're unwell, you have gone to a pathology lab, you have engaged with a doctor, you've engaged with a phlebotomist who takes your blood really nicely, and that gives you comfort. That makes you feel very comfortable because the center is close to your house. The center is giving you a certain warmth and coziness in that area. The phlebotomist has taken care of you, and that becomes your comfort zone. Now, in the future, you keep going to that lab. You're not looking at who's cheaper. You're not looking at who's giving me fancy technology. You're not looking at those things. You're actually looking at who's giving me trust and reassurance when my chips are down. And as long as the doctor is accepting the report and recommending the report, that gives you the comfort that I'm fine. Which is why healthcare globally, this is not an India phenomenon, globally healthcare is a very local business and has never become a chain. Like, you'll never hear of a chain of hospitals across the world. You'll never hear of a chain of diagnostic centers across the world. In fact, the largest American player came into India for 15 years and failed miserably and left. Because the business of healthcare is very local, because people are looking for trust and reassurance from individuals and not only from brands. And therefore, we will not be able to change that course of saying that, okay, if we just go and advertise as the leader in a city, all that business will suddenly start coming to us. It does not work like that in healthcare. And therefore, the inorganic piece of healthcare is always going to be an important piece of continuing to build beyond organic. So the organic amount will grow and build certain amount of business and bring it to the parent company. And inorganic will give you that additional entry point or boost to get into new segments or new geographies or new channels. And that will add an additional revenue. So I think it's very important that we understand what are the drivers on the ground, because from our perspective, this is definitely not an acquisition to block anybody. There was nobody else bidding for this company. This was a bilateral sale where it was just the seller and the buyer who decided to make this happen. And therefore, that is not the correct picture at all. In fact, we believe that this is going to add a lot of value, because when you consolidate market share in a city in healthcare, there are significant benefits that come from pricing. There are significant benefits that come from synergy, and the significant benefits that will come from operations in the ground to be able to do that. You are able to hire a better quality talent. You are able to attract better quality doctors and medical people, because when they are seeing that there is a larger operation on the ground, it gives them the motivation to want to join you and get better talent into the mix as well. And we have seen this. I mean, if you look at even hospital business, you'll see the top hospital chain in India continues to get majority of their revenues and profits from their top 3-4 locations in the country where they are market leaders. So market leadership is a very critical part of healthcare for profitability.
Sure, I appreciate that. And just one more clarity, if you can talk about a little bit background of Hitech, how have they built this business? Have they gone about acquiring some of the other labs, or this has been all organic build-up for them?
It has been all organic, and usually we don't acquire businesses which have then gone and aggregated and sell. That's not what we look for. We look for businesses which have been built by doctors, ground up, where they themselves have been involved. They have given good services. There is a good ethical brand in the market. They're not building it off the back of heavy discounts and promo codes and referrals to doctors, but they are building it on the back of good services, ethics, good quality. And those are the kind of businesses that we like to bring on board and which have a fundamental financial soundness to it, and not just sort of increase because of COVID. This business, as we said, has got like a 28 to 30% margin profile, even pre-COVID. There are many businesses we know who were 5% or 7% pre-COVID. And now because of COVID, their EBITDAs have jumped to 20. But we know once COVID gets over, they'll come back down to 5%. So this is a good quality business that we brought in, and they have not done acquisitions in the past.
And just last point, routine test is what percentage of high-tech sales? Like for Metropolis, it's about 40-45% of the volume. What percentage is high-tech?
I don't have a specific accurate number that I can offer you, but I would tell you it will be a very high percentage for high-tech because their business is largely B2C, and most of that, 90% of that or 95% of that will be routine. So we can come back to you with the exact number.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pooja Bhatia from Morgan Stanley. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So Ameera, of the 5 focus cities, Chennai has already become sizable with high-tech integration. In the balance 4 cities, the opportunities which are visible at this point, which markets are these? Is it Mumbai, Pune?
So Chennai and Bangalore both will obviously move forward for us with high-tech. Bombay and Pune continue obviously the main important markets for us, and we have got our own very aggressive plans in both these markets, all of which are being executed as we speak. They cover geography expansion. We believe we can still add a lot of centers in these 2 markets. There's a lot of growth still to come from existing network as well as the new network. We are also increasing the amount of spend in technology, in customer services, in sales, and also in going to be soon in marketing. So there's a lot of investment going into these markets to continue to build our organic trajectory. And frankly, like we said, somebody asked me a question last time about competition coming in and new people entering the industry, etc. I mean, this is not new. We have seen people enter the industry for donkey's years. There's always been competition. But what we have found is that if we do what we need to do well for our customers, there continues to be growth to be had because as the largest brand there, some other competition cannot take away our opportunity for growth just because they have entered. If we do what we do well, there continues to be a great opportunity in Bombay and Pune.
Understood. Also, as alluded in the earlier call, the expansion is to tap 200 cities from 100 cities now. I think that's the most important data point. It really depends on what kind of company comes on board when you acquire. But what could be the rough inorganic growth contribution next 3 years? So if the company is growing by 16-17%, would 3 to 4% be included in that, or would it be over and above?
I think difficult to answer that question at this point of time because, as you know, we are all still coming out of normalization for COVID. And we really don't know still what is going to happen, whether there's going to be a wave 3 or not. So I think it's important that we let things normalize in terms of post-COVID. That has just started to happen around industry, but we've not had enough time to really see the stability coming. So I think we should wait for that to happen. I think for us to be able to give any revenue guidance.
Okay, and one last from my side. What is the rough manpower addition with high-tech integration?
In terms of number of people?
Yes.
Yeah, it will be around. It will be around 750 to 850.
750 to 850, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the last question for today. I would now like to hand the conference over to Ms. Ameera Shah for closing comments.
Thank you all for joining in today. We are very excited about this acquisition. It's the largest that's happened in the industry and definitely the largest that Metropolis has done. And while I understand there are many ways to build this business, I think it's very important to understand that we have gone through all the different renditions and scenarios. And whatever decisions that we are making, we are doing very, very thoughtfully and very prudently. And we believe that this will be value accretive to the business. And it will help us build additional scale, build additional volumes, and move ahead in market strength and in brand strength as we move forward. And thank you to all of you for being part of this journey with us. And we will obviously keep you updated with any material things that keep happening. Do wish us all the best as we continue to integrate this acquisition and bring great value to all our shareholders.
Thank you. On behalf of Metropolis Healthcare Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.